Hello there once again, Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're glad you're with us today on The Verdict. And today, we're going to welcome in the mayor of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, Mike Lester.
Yes, we're going to have two honorable folks on the set, and you can just kind of put me off into the corner.
Don't forget to count me.
You're the other one. We're going to be talking about being a mayor in 2011 in Oklahoma. No matter what size city you have, you got common problems, common interests, and things that you're trying to develop. And we're sure pleased to have the mayor of Broken Arrow join us.
Well, they are a very progressive community, and a lot of communities could learn from some of the steps that Broken Arrow has taken proactively in their own behalf. And in Oklahoma, you can argue that cities shouldn't compete against each other, but they do, and Broken Arrow wins more of their battles than they lose. So we'll get some insight from Mike Lester today. We're going to talk about municipal government and specifically what's going on in the Tulsa suburb of Broken Arrow today on The Verdict.
It's time, America. Our energy future can be ours again with American natural gas. We have an abundant, affordable supply, unrivaled anywhere. $1 billion a day for importing foreign oil isn't just a statistic, it's an opportunity. 30% lower greenhouse emissions isn't a pipe dream, it's a choice. Now is the time. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
This woman is having a heart attack, and she doesn't even know she's at risk. Heart attacks aren't always as dramatic as you see on TV. Gone unchecked, heart disease could crumple everything. A simple heart scan could save your life. Get a $50 heart scan at St. Anthony, the most trusted experts in cardiovascular care.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we are honored to have the Honorable Mike Lester, the mayor of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, join us. Drove down the Turnpike to do this show for us, and we really do appreciate it. I think you'll really enjoy it when you find out a little bit more about Broken Arrow and what a mayor does in a town that size. Mike was a Broken Arrow native, born and raised there. Was involved in law enforcement with the Tulsa Police Department for a number of years, then went into private business in construction, both residential and commercial, as well as commercial real estate development. And in 2007, he was named vice mayor of Broken Arrow, and in 2009, named mayor. And we're sure pleased you take the time to come talk about being a mayor in 2011.
I'm always glad to go and speak about the good things happening in Broken Arrow.
Good. This show has two distinct audiences, one in the Tulsa area, one in the Oklahoma City metro area. I think people in the Oklahoma City metro area might be surprised to learn that Broken Arrow is the fourth largest state or city in the state of Oklahoma.
It is, and we continue to grow. I tell Norman's mayor that we have her in our sights, and we're moving rapidly to that direction.
And the population is right around 100,000?
Right around 100,000. It was 98.5 by the census,
Okay.
but
give us some idea of the growth. What was it in, say, 20 years ago?
well, I can tell you, I graduated from Broken Arrow High School in 1966. It was about 6,000. So it's
Wow.
grown tremendously over the last.
Was it considered a rural community there, a bedroom community?
It wasn't even a bedroom community until the Broken Arrow Expressway was open, and then it just really started a growth spurt. I think primarily based on the school system. people wanting to get out into the suburbs and a little more space, but had a great school system.
So the transportation route opened up a corridor. People decided they could live there, work in Tulsa if they chose, and be there back in 15, 20 minutes or so?
It did, and over the years we've continued to grow from the third largest manufacturing city in Oklahoma. So We've become multifaceted over the years.
Have you annexed since '66?
We have. Our last annexation was probably 2 years ago. More in the northeast quadrant of the city. We had boundaries in the southeast and southwest quadrant, but I think we've probably taken in as much land as we want to at this particular time.
Somebody's moving to Oklahoma, looking in the Tulsa area generally. Why Broken Arrow?
Well, I think over the years, you look at the school systems, we now have not only Broken Arrow schools, but part of Union School District as a part of Broken Arrow. But we've continued to grow in our retail development, the opportunities that we provide our citizens. From my perspective, that's one of my primary purposes on the council, is to create economic opportunity for our citizens.
Talk about the form of government that Broken Arrow has, and maybe compare it to what Oklahoma City has.
It's very similar to what Oklahoma City has. We have a city manager, we have 5 council members. Every 2 years, then we elect a mayor and vice mayor from those 5 positions. But we rely on the city manager for the day-to-day operation of the city. In my non-paying job, it almost becomes full-time.
Right.
Just to be the mayor. There's so many different things happening.
On the expense side, I'm assuming public safety drives the bulk of your budget?
It does. Actually, it's about 105% of our sales tax revenue. So, you know, Oklahoma is unique in that we're the only state that relies primarily on sales tax. We've learned over the years that we can sell water and those various things to try to make up the difference. But it's very difficult regardless of the size of the city.
Yeah, so I'm taking you don't like relying on sales tax so much.
I think in these times we're going through right now, it becomes very difficult to maintain the services that your citizens come to expect.
But would you share the perspective that given the parameters of the way you compete, you've probably set up to succeed and have outcompeted the other municipalities who were in that same situation?
Well, and we learned, one of our biggest problems that we were so close to the 71st Street corridor where the mall is in Tulsa, that none of the major retailers wanted to come to Broken Arrow for fear of robbing from those. I think our turning point was the Bass Pro Shop in Broken Arrow. It created economic opportunities on the north side of the Broken Arrow Expressway, which just really allowed us over the last 5 or 6 years to grow significantly.
And when did that open?
2005.
Describe just a little bit the process that was followed to get Bass Pro there. Did you pursue them? Were they fishing for you, or were you fishing for them?
Well, it was a combination of both. There are some real estate brokers in Broken Arrow that were heavily involved in Bass Pro's other locations, and so we had the kind of the inside track as far as getting them to the table. Once we did, it took $4 million of infrastructure for the city, plus a $20 million building that we turned around and leased back to them. So, you know, in retrospect, it was a great thing for Broken Arrow, both from an economic opportunity and for all the other retail it brought along with it.
And it hasn't turned sour or turned down particularly since 2008.
No, it really hasn't. I think that was the catalyst of bringing so many other retailers. Even in the downtime, we continued to grow from retail's perspective. So even though business to business, our sales tax revenue probably dropped a little because of the new businesses we were bringing, we were actually at or a little above our year-to-year sales.
What's your relationship with the school system?
We learned, and it's really good, both school systems. We learned about 3 years ago that their patrons are our citizens, and so we made a pact with the Chamber of Commerce and the school system that everything that we do, we involve the other entity. The TIF district that we have in rebuilding our downtown, as well as providing funding for flight safety, was done with a TIF. We could have done it without the school system's blessing, but it makes things so much easier if we're all on the same booking page.
And the superintendent over there?
Dr. Jared Mendenhall.
Yes. Okay.
He's been there a year, a little over a year actually, done a great job. They passed a $295 million bond issue in 2009, and they're really into that construction now.
What did demographers tell you about your future growth? I assume it's got to slow down. What do you believe?
Actually, we are projecting that it will grow continually through the next 20 or 30 years. And to the point, we have to project out 15 or 20 years ahead for our water. We're starting a new water plant, 50 million gallons a day, in anticipation of that future growth, trying to stay ahead of the curve.
And you get your water from what source?
Right now, we get it from the Oklahoma Water Works Authority out of Pryor. We will be getting it out off the Verdigris River. We have water rights for that. We also have made a pact with Tulsa to buy water from them if we need it, they from us if they need it.
Talk about what someone would see driving in and around Broken Arrow from a geography standpoint. Are we going to see rolling hills and trees? Are we going to see wide open, dusty plains? What will we see?
Well, you see a lot of trees, rolling hills. The further east you get into Oklahoma, of course, the more hilly country you get. I think what you'll generally notice is the new landscape of the new buildings, because even though Broken Arrow is over 100 years old, our retail growth has really occurred over the last 5 or 6 years. So most of those bigger retailers are fairly new.
Mm-hmm. What are the challenges for an elected official in a fast-growing suburb?
Well, certainly, as we spoke, money is always that issue. Public safety is one of those things that citizens always look for in a community. They want to feel safe. The other is providing the water, the sewer, the infrastructure that you can. For us, it's trying to keep ahead of the growth on our roadways. Our sales tax leakage has really been the biggest problem that we've experienced over the years. We were losing $2.5 million a year in sporting goods sales alone to Tulsa, and that's the reason we made a deal with Dick's Sporting Goods to come to Broken Arrow, to not only take up that, but to, again, bring more people to Broken Arrow.
Mm-hmm. What are the expectations of someone who lives there? Because I'm sure you have people that lived there a long time ago, thinking they were kind of removed from urban life, and now the city has come to them. Well,
and that's sometimes our biggest problem is dealing with the people I grew up with that don't necessarily like the change.
They don't like change?
No, they don't.
Come on.
Well, and I argue with them on those things, but the downtown area is one of those. As I was growing up, that's where all the commerce was, in the downtown area. Well, in an effort to reinvent it, you have to make some changes.
Right.
Those come very hard for people, but I think ultimately they will come to appreciate the things that we're doing.
Mike Lester is our guest. We're discussing being a mayor in a medium-sized but fast-growing city in the state of Oklahoma. He is the mayor of Broken Arrow. One more segment with Mike when we get back.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence, and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
In 25 years, world energy demand will grow by 44%, with oil and natural gas largely meeting the need.
The question is, will America's demand be met by American resources?
Oklahoma says yes. We're developing the largest oil and natural gas discoveries America has seen in 40 years.
It's creating jobs and millions in tax revenue for schools, roads, and hospitals.
Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, advancing our state, empowering our nation.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers and our guest, the mayor of Broken Arrow, Mike Lester. Mike, talk a little bit on a subject that we got into in the first half just a little bit about the reliance of cities on sales tax and how that impacts the day-to-day operations.
Well, it becomes very difficult in these trying times to project what your sales tax revenue is going to be, not only year over year, but month to month. So in 2007, 2008, we saw a trend of sales tax going down, and we put a hiring freeze across the city. It's really what helped us get through those tough times. We are fortunate to have employees who have kind of filled in the gap, both in the public safety perspective, but all the other areas of doing more with less. We were able to reward them for that last year with a stipend. Actually, Tuesday night we gave both the firefighter or the FOP and the non-uniform employees a 2.5% raise. So we're slowly kind of getting back into our groove, but it's difficult.
So what does your revenue look like in this fiscal year?
Actually, we're projecting about a 4% increase in revenue. And a lot of that has to do with being very aggressive in our economic development standpoint, that even if it stays flat, the new revenue coming in from the new businesses help us stay ahead of the curve.
So how creative are you in economic development?
Well, we provided $7 million to flight safety, which is 700 employees averaging $55,000 a year. It wasn't so much that they provide any sales tax, but when new retailers come to town, they want to know who you've lost as much as who you've received.
Was that a relocation?
It was a relocation actually within Broken Arrow to one building. And it's creating a lot more economic development in and around there because you have 700 employees kind of.
But your concern was that they would leave?
Our concern was that they would leave. Yeah. We've also will be announcing in the next couple of weeks a new development in South Broken Arrow, which we heretofore haven't had. That will be about 150 acres of retail development along the Creek Turnpike. We are paying about $5 million for the interchange. We got 1.8 of that from the Turnpike Authority. The city's doing the rest of that as well as upgrading all the roads in that area. So we're spending about $15 million, and then we've created some economic incentives to the developer.
You have city council meetings, I'm sure, where the citizens come before you and express their concerns. What are the 2 or 3 most regular things you hear that your citizens are concerned about?
Well, change is one of those, but really they want to be assured from a public safety perspective that we're doing everything. We're blessed with having some outstanding police and fire personnel.
Well, you have a personal background.
I do. Actually, I was on the Tulsa Police Department along with my 2 brothers in the 70s. I found that I couldn't live or support myself on the police back at that point in time, but we do have that. Making sure that stormwater management is one of our big problems because we were having a lot of flooding in the northeast quadrant of Broken Arrow. So we've taken kind of a regional standpoint of floodplain management rather than individual developments. It's helped tremendously in alleviating those worries.
And talk, if you would, a little bit about Vision 2025 and how Broken Arrow benefited.
One of the first things that we benefited, and this grew out of a chamber retreat, was, gee, wouldn't it be nice to have a university in Broken Arrow? And through Vision 25, the initial funding for Northeastern State University Broken Arrow came about. They built that initial phase. We voted a tax increase, sales tax increase, several years later to build the next phase, which we have now paid off. So we look at education as one of those things that people look for coming to a community. Public safety certainly is that, but the educational opportunity is one of those, not only in the secondary level, but the post high school level.
And your perspective on the projects as a whole and what they did for the community?
I think what they did not only for Broken Arrow, but from a regional standpoint, and as we talked about, when you're flying in to Tulsa International Airport, you don't see city boundaries, you see one big area. So we decided that we will market economic development on a regional standpoint. We will not go into the other communities and try to rob businesses, but we'll try to bring them in. If they come to Broken Arrow, fine. If they go to Tulsa, fine. Ultimately, that helps us all.
So your city abuts Bixby, Tulsa, And
Coweta.
The relationship with those adjacent communities.
It's very good, and actually we're working with Coweta and Jinx and Bixby right now on some water issues that we might be able to provide them years down the road. Last night we signed an interlocal agreement with Coweta to provide jail services because they don't have the capacity to do that. We have a new animal shelter that we work with the surrounding communities in providing their space for them. So I think we have looked at this from a regional standpoint. There's many things that we can share together that doesn't really make sense, each of us having one separately. There are some issues that you just can't get past that, you know, everybody likes their own school district. We've looked at public safety. You know, many of the problems are, you know, who's providing the best service for their citizens.
What are you doing about ambulance service?
Our fire department is providing our ambulance service. So that was one of the issues, that if we went to a regional fire district, would we follow Broken Arrow's model, which has their own ambulance service, or Tulsa's that has an independent ambulance service? Our citizens have felt and expressed that they think that the fire department manning the ambulance service is better choice for us. So each fire station has their own ambulance.
How has the Creek Turnpike affected the metro area?
It in very much the same manner the Broken Arrow Expressway did. It's opened up South Broken Arrow. I sat on the planning commission when that first came, and there was that same mentality with change. We don't like it, but actually the people that fought it the most actually made the most money off selling their land to Walmart and for this new economic development. So I think it's the catalyst for Broken Arrow's continued growth.
What would you like to tell our viewers about what's going on in Broken Arrow?
Well, one of the things...
What do you want the Oklahoma City viewers to know about Broken Arrow?
Well, aside from economic development, Broken Arrow has 450 acres of parks. We have a new events park we're beginning to put together that will bring regional events to Broken Arrow. It'll have an amphitheater, a pavilion. One of the things Broken Arrow is known for is we were just named Money Magazine's 8th best place to retire, which to me seemed a little strange, but when you look at it from the perspective of what we provide our youth, when grandparents retire, they want to be near their grandchildren. And so we've got lots of golf courses, we've got entertainment, the retail. So we're a community of 100,000 that act like we're 20,000.
Mayor Mike Lester, thanks so much for coming on The Verdict.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always glad to brag about Broken Arrow.
Well, you do it well, and we really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Mike Lester, our guest today on The Verdict. Kent and I'll have a final word when we return.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The Journal Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal Record, Since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. We're wrapping up the show with the mayor of Broken Arrow, Mike Lester. You know, if you spend time in Tulsa, and specifically those south suburbs, both in the city of Tulsa, but also in areas like Jenks and Bixby and Broken Arrow, life's pretty good there. Yeah. You know, when you start comparing it to the rest of the country, and we hear about all the calamity, you know, that's taken place around the United States, and certainly Oklahoma City is outpacing, you know, most cities as well. But I tell you, life in Tulsa is pretty good. And when you start looking at best of list, Oklahoma City and Tulsa are typically both in there at some level, and that's something that everyone in the state can take pride in.
Well, and Broken Arrow has beautiful geography, beautiful things to see when you're over there. Lots of water.
Yeah, that's right. And they do take a priority on economic development. So we appreciate Mike Lester coming on the show. And one other, you know, tidbit that he brought up that's probably worth mentioning here one more time is the way that municipalities rely on sales tax. And you saw the inspiration in his eyes when he talked about what was a fairly highly controversial negotiation with Bass Pro, in that they were indirectly or directly, depending on how you look at it, subsidizing a retailer who would be competing against existing retailers in the area. But you saw how, to support his public safety, to continue to provide public safety for his citizens, he was forced to try and create you know, some sales tax, because he was losing sales tax. People that lived in his community were spending it in other places. And that math doesn't work. If you're trying to provide public safety, you've got to be able to retain your own retail. And Broken Arrow was able to do that and continue to grow. Well, next week we have Tom Price.
Tom Price from Chesapeake.
Ought to be good. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.